Throughout history, books that challenged the status quo have always been met with suspicion, especially during periods of political or religious repression. Many of them contained philosophical ideas so transformative that they were eventually banned, as they posed a threat to existing power structures and control. But what happens when a thought is silenced? Does it make it even more dangerous? Perhaps it is precisely this censorship that sparks even more curiosity, making the forbidden idea even more enticing. Imagine yourself in the shoes of a thinker whose work was banned by kings, governments, or even the church. What would you do to ensure that your truth survived? Philosophy has an almost untamable nature, always questioning the foundations of reality, morality, and politics. When these questions confront established power, the response tends to be immediate and relentless. Figures like Giordano Bruno, who advocated for the existence of infinite worlds and challenged the geocentric view of the cosmos, or Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who preached the natural freedom of man, faced severe consequences. Many of these thinkers were imprisoned, exiled, or even killed, but their words continued to resonate, like a flame that could not be extinguished. Even though their lives were destroyed, their ideas remained alive, planting seeds of transformation in the minds of future generations. Among the books that have faced censorship throughout history, The Prince by Machiavelli stands out. Considered a manual of tyranny, the work was banned by the Catholic Church because its cold and calculated analysis of political power seemed to contradict the religious morals of the time. However, few understood that Machiavelli was not advocating cruelty but merely describing politics as it truly was, without filters. Perhaps this was his greatest transgression, exposing the truth without adornments. His ruthless realism was an affront to any system that sought to maintain the illusion of the goodness of rulers. Immanuel Kant, one of the most revered philosophers of modern times, also faced censorship. His work Religion Within the Bounds of Bare Reason was banned in Prussia for questioning institutionalized religion, and advocating that true morality should be based on reason, not divine commandments. Like Spinoza, Kant saw philosophy as a means to free man from the chains imposed by power, especially religious power. His ideas challenged the notion that faith should be accepted without question, offering humanity an alternative rooted in rational freedom. The French Revolution sparked intense debates about liberty and equality, but paradoxically, it was also marked by censorship. The Social Contract by Rousseau, which inspired many revolutionaries, was even banned during certain periods by regimes that feared the power of his ideas. The paradox lies in the fact that, while advocating for democracy, the work also exposed how power tends to corrupt. Its influence was so profound that it resonated in revolutions around the world, proving that words have the power to transform nations. Friedrich Nietzsche, author of Thus Spoke Zarathustra, saw his works met with suspicion and, often, indirect censorship. Although not formally banned in many countries, his critiques of religious institutions and Christian morality were so unsettling that numerous attempts were made to discredit his ideas. For Nietzsche, morality was a human construct, and the Übermensch represented the one who could overcome these impositions. He viewed religion and morality as tools of domestication, limiting the human being and preventing them from reaching their true potential. 1984, by George Orwell, although a work of fiction, is one of the most powerful philosophical critiques of totalitarianism and was banned by various authoritarian regimes. Orwell revealed to us that the control of ideas means the control of reality itself, and in a world where free thought is suppressed, the human being becomes empty. Big Brother, the omnipresent authority figure, became a symbol of political oppression, whose relevance remains to this day. His work became a warning, a dark reflection of the consequences of authoritarianism, whose lessons echo across all eras. Michel Foucault, one of the leading philosophers of the 20th century, also stood out for his critiques of power and the various forms of social control. His book Discipline and Punish provides a detailed analysis of how societies discipline and control people's bodies and minds. For Foucault, modern society is a disguised prison, where we are constantly watched and shaped by institutions. His work was met with skepticism by many governments, who felt threatened by his critiques of social and political control systems. Spinoza was also targeted by repression, with his theological political treatise quickly banned. In an era marked by blind faith and religious dogmatism, he dared to argue that the Bible should be interpreted rationally, like any other text, and that religion should be kept separate from the state. His ideas were seen as a direct threat to the authorities, who feared losing control over the minds of the masses. The danger he posed was immense, as he not only questioned political power but also challenged the divine authority used to legitimize it. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, with his book Émile, or Treatise on Education, was banned both in France and Geneva. He argued that society corrupted man and that education should respect human nature, allowing individual freedom. His critique of the civilization of the time led him to be seen as a subversive and dangerous thinker, whose ideas could inflame the masses. By revealing the artificiality of social norms, Rousseau proposed a return to simplicity and purity, something that deeply concerned the powerful. Karl Marx also faced strong censorship, with his The Communist Manifesto being banned in several countries. The idea of a global proletarian revolution terrified the governments of the time. Amid the rise of industrial capitalism, Marx challenged the existing order by asserting that the system was not only unjust but was inevitably heading toward collapse. His critiques and predictions were seen as a direct threat, resulting in intense repression against him and his followers. However, his words sparked the collective imagination, fueling labor movements and revolutions across the globe. Simone de Beauvoir's work, especially The Second Sex, also faced repression, particularly in more conservative countries. Her analysis of the female condition, denouncing how society subjugated women, was seen as a direct threat to patriarchal structures. Beauvoir not only exposed the problem but also encouraged women to resist and free themselves from this historical oppression. Her words became a spark for the feminist movement, which continues to fight against inequality and oppression to this day. The ideas of Herbert Marcuse, a philosopher from the Frankfurt School, were also met with distrust, especially during the Cold War. His book Eros and Civilization was considered dangerous for suggesting that capitalist society repressed true human needs in the name of profit and efficiency. Marcuse believed that the liberation of sexuality and the pursuit of pleasure were forms of resistance to oppression. He proposed a subversive vision, in which true freedom could only be achieved through the destruction of repressive capitalist structures. Jean-Paul Sartre, in the field of existentialist philosophy, also had his works closely monitored by conservative regimes due to his defense of absolute freedom. His idea that the human being is responsible for creating their own meaning in life, without divine intervention, was both revolutionary and feared. In the post-war period, his reflections on individual freedom, responsibility, and politics generated both admiration and rejection, especially among those who saw religion and nationalism as forms of social cohesion. Sartre represented the deconstruction of these established certainties. Finally, the censorship of philosophical books teaches us an important lesson: the fear that power has of reflection. When a regime or authority tries to suppress an idea, what do they really fear? Perhaps what scares them the most is the power of ideas to transform consciousness and, consequently, the world. Censorship, at its core, is a confession of weakness, as it shows that power is afraid to confront the truth. And have you ever stopped to think about what other ideas are being silently suppressed today? Thank you for watching, and until next time.